Welcome back, everyone, to Shaman Talk with Tegan. Tarot with Tegan is where you will find me on Instagram and Facebook. I have another person here today, a very special person. Her name is Monique. She is my shamanic mentor. She's the one who taught me everything I know, who passed down all the rights to me. And so let's give it up for Monique. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tegan. I'm very honored for being here today and so thrilled that as you as a student has progressed to a practitioner and moving forward in all the things that you're doing. And I'm just thrilled.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a crazy journey, but so like amazing and mind-opening, eye-opening, and just kind of starting as the practitioner. So I'm sure that's going to even get crazier and better with time.
Absolutely. I mean, this is part of the process, as all of us, despite being a practitioner, how many years you may have been in whoever you were trained with, whatever your specialty was or focus was, whether it's Peruvian or any other type of shamanic practitioner training, it is truly a journey, and you are always on the learning pathway in this journey.
Yes, one of the things I remember you telling us kind of towards the beginning was, we go around what's called the medicine wheel, which is like going from we started in the south and went all the way around to the east. But I remember you saying, like, oh, yeah, you're going to go through this through the training. But then there's going to be times in life where you find yourself right back on that wheel, having to work all the way back around. And that has definitely been true, especially lately. Like this entire month of May for me, it's been all over the place. I don't know if you felt any crazy energy stuff this month or anything.
Yeah, I think as you grow as a practitioner, it's not only your personal growth, but you're impacting in how you shift energy from a universal standpoint, whether it's your community or whether it's nationally or even internationally. But you feel the energy shifts within the communities, and that in itself is part of holding energy and where it triggers you essentially, and how you can assist in the movement of that energy, whether it's shifting or just holding space for those who are going through really extreme times at this point in our lifetime.
Yes, I can definitely kind of relate to all of that because at one point I kind of felt like it was me just more holding space, and then another time more recently it was like, oh no, this is me and my stuff coming forward that needs to come forward. And so it's been very, it's in the moment could be very tough, but after when you can kind of look back on it, it's like, oh wow, that was really enlightening and really healing that needed to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this is, when we're talking about shamanism, we're talking about truly a way of life, and it's a way we approach life. And it's a matter of the universal energy, how it moves through this, and how we connect in with the universe, that we're never really disconnected. And with that understanding, we know that at many times personally, and for all of those others who've gone through many trying times, that there's a lot of feeling of what we would say, I'm disconnected. I don't feel like myself, or I just don't feel like I'm in flow, or everything is against me. And understanding that we're always connected, it's just a matter of how we open and let ourselves really release to what the universe is asking us, and being really aware of those cues that universe sends us. And that can be very overwhelming in this dimensional space that we're in. We get very overwhelmed with just our everyday lives, but just tuning into that inner voice, people, even whether they call it their intuition, whether it's their inner voice, it's that matter of connection and understanding that that inner voice, whether you believe it or not, can actually prove to be right. There are many times in my lifetime where that inner voice has come forward and I've gone ahead and done something completely different. And then it's like, well, it proves itself to be a little wrong. So there is something that, does not matter your religious background or your belief system, but it really is a truth and a connection to the divine. And however you connect to the divine through any spiritual being, how you connect is really what's important. And with that creates the guidance and allows you to be open to what is really being, what is available to you. And really everything, when I say everything is available to us, we just need to ask for it and be open for it.
Yes, and I think that's amazing. And I feel like kind of the more that I start to grow, the more I start to learn. And, I like to like read a lot. So I'm always reading things like, like the Egyptian Book of the Dead in my room and like just all different kinds of viewpoints. And you start to understand like truly on like a little bit higher level, I guess I'll say it, that everything just connected. And yes, there are these different stems of these different specific belief systems, and that's fine. But in the end, a lot of them are saying the same thing. We're all just trying to connect to the divine in us, to the divine everywhere. And so how you get there, is up to you and what you're comfortable with. I do have a question for you. So when you did the shamanic training with my group, we were your first group. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so how was it for you kind of becoming like the teacher in that situation?
So the journey as a shamanic practitioner, not every person wants to walk down that journey of teaching. And teaching has always been something that has been one of my, I would say, divine gifts in my current practice in the work that I do. But it's always been something that I have always been called for. But I knew that it was a timing factor. And so I had to work through some substantial, like emotional aspects and move through the wheel, like we've done our training. As we go through our understanding from some of the deepest hurts and traumas and understanding, I guess, what would be the best way to try and speak to those who have not had any shamanic training would be here's an example. So if, for example, you're triggered, somebody all of a sudden makes you severely angry, and you get your back up and your ego comes into play, and maybe that inside voice says, I'm not good enough. And that inside voice, that I'm not good enough, could have stemmed from conversations of when you were very young in this lifetime. Could have been those interactions with family or friends, or in school, and really created a traumatic experience for you. So part of that journey, and as we answer your question, but part of that journey goes to the understanding of, what are those things that trigger me? What is that aspect of me that I'm working with in this lifetime, that I'm carrying forward as a being in this dimension, as a being in the family that I incarnated into, and trying to understand that more deeply. As soon as there's recognition of that, why did I get so upset? Why did I get my back up? Why did my ego come into play? Then you start to really journey and move into spaces of, well, I remember a time, right? Whether it's like, I could remember a time when I was in preschool or high school. And then what really explodes is this whole lifetime, however old you are, of how that has layered into your life over many, many years. So to your question was simply, I had to move through that journey first. And not to say that that journey has completed, but there was an aspect of a period of time that said, at this time, you're ready. There was the guides, the master teachers that I journey with, that I meditate with. And at that point, it was a moment of readiness. Now, with that being said, being that teacher with you and our first group was an incredible learning experience for me. And it also, it we went through the medicine wheel. We went through that journey together, and it was enlightening in the aspect of I saw things from a different perspective. I saw things from a healed perspective. I saw aspects of unhealed perspectives. So there was a growth component to it. So it's an evolution. It's not everybody's journey, but for those who take that journey, it's just meant to be.
Yeah, and I just looking back too, it's another thing where I'm, whew, that's like so intense in and of itself, doing the training and then having to teach it. And you have so many different people with different, like you were saying, kind of traumas and things they're bringing into it, and having to kind of figure out how to navigate that a little bit of like, okay, this person's kind of dealing with this while this person's dealing with something totally different. Like, everyone's reacting in different ways. I remember for me, one of the hardest things that I first recognized, I guess, was like when we were talking about the ego, and there's a page in our packet or whatever of like the drama triangle. And I remember being like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
not a dramatic person. This isn't me. But then eventually it was like, no, you're on this right now. Like you're part of this thing, and that's okay. But you, like you were saying, got to recognize it. And then after you recognize it, then what really helped with the training for me at least was like where to go from there, because I feel like a lot of people today, especially with a lot more people doing things like therapy, they're kind of finding out their triggers and how it's like going down the line a little bit. But then I hear people tell me they sometimes they come to me because they're like, well, now what? Like, I recognize the triggers, and then how do I stop it, or how do I not do it anymore? What do I need to do? So then it's like, now we have this tool, or some of us have these tools to actually start to clear our energy and cut the cords and all that stuff like that. And I feel like, although technically what we do like with the energy work, it's still a little bit out there for some people, but it's becoming a lot more accepted, and a lot more people are actually seeing this as something that can help them.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of ways in life that we can go through the challenges and working through some of those difficulties. I mean, whether it's therapy and talk therapy, and that works beautifully for some, but sometimes it's a little bit deeper. And it can be any tool. It doesn't have to be energy work from shamanism. It could be from Reiki. It could be from NLP, programming. It could be from somatic therapy, but there, whatever it is that gathers that energy from your emotional physical being, that brings it forward, that creates this greater understanding of what is happening, is what really needs to be cleared. I think that part of, there is many people that might be able to understand that, yes, like as you said, exactly. It's like, okay, now I see that I'm being triggered. Like all of these, I see that I'm getting reactive in these particular scenarios. Like when someone's saying I'm not good enough, when someone says like like I can't be in that same group, or I can't be in that same realm of people or individuals. At that point it's like I say, well, fantastic, right? You've got to step one. Step one is truly recognizing that. But how do we rectify, how do we clear that energy? And as shamanic practitioners, we can do a lot of energy work. We can go back and do soul retrievals where we access kind of original hurts. And sometimes when we do uh, energy work in that manner, we access some core hurt, core emotional trauma from a soul retrieval that actually triggers a greater understanding for that individual. It is not our goal to heal you. It is our goal to help you move and clear that energy so you understand it clearly, so you can move it forward. So this is what's really important as any type of energy healer, that we are, we're providing tools, and we're providing the ability to assist you in kind of your healing process. But really, that healing process is up to the individual. It isn't like a one and done, and you're gonna like 100% your life is going to be better. But there's going to be a understanding, and sometimes that understanding can lead to more pain and more complexity, and that's where the deeper work needs to begin.
Yes, I feel like if there were kind of two things that I always try and drive home when I'm working with people now, like it's that I literally say that it's not a one and done thing, just so you know, like but and then there's other times where people try and say like, "Oh, you did this for me." I'm like, "No, I'm just helping. Like you're the one who has to dig into these emotions, you're the one who has to release them. I'm just trying to help you along in the process because it truly is like sometimes a team effort, depending on what's going on with somebody, but it is them that has to let go and even get here in the first place still sometimes. I'll have people message me curious or they'll be like, "Oh, I told so and so to come here," but you have to make that decision to actually come in and be ready to go and to feel into emotions. I think that's the hardest part still sometimes for some people is it's uncomfortable at times. The true deep intense healing is gonna involve tears, it's gonna involve whatever needs to come out, anger, like you said, like it just you have to be able to let it come forward in order to heal it.
And there's a lot of people, I mean, as you work with more and more clients, you realize that individuals are, although they say they're ready, they're not always ready to receive what is coming forward. And for that, we have to honor that and just work with them at the level that they're at. And although it is exceptionally gratifying when people truly release and truly get a breakthrough, there are other individuals that still are really guarded in that process. And that in itself we honor, because we honor that it's just in their time, when they're ready, when they're open. And again, we are the conduit that helps them shift and create that energy shift for them to experience something different and to open into a new energy.
Yeah, I feel like as I'm doing more and more sessions, one thing that I'm starting to realize too is that like, I'll be doing my thing, doing the illuminations and I'll get some kind of sign. Sometimes literally just like in my mind's eye, I'll hear something, or sometimes it's my ear ringing and it's like, "Oh, okay, this is enough for today. Like we don't have to do it all." And sometimes, like you were saying, some people are still a little guarded, or it's just that they are very new to this. And I feel like sometimes, like, they're telling me their guides or whatever, like, "Okay, that's enough for today." Like, that's plenty of energy movement. We need to wrap it up here so they're not overwhelmed.
Right. And I mean, I have had over time individuals who came in being very open and have literally run out of the room. And it's simply because that energy is erupting within them. And for whatever reason and whatever it is, they cannot manage to deal with it at that time. And again, it's just holding space for that individual and understanding that maybe this is not their modality that will assist them. Maybe there's a more gentle modality, and not to say that shamanism is brings forth things forcefully, but I think when people have lived in a space where they have suppressed their feelings, where maybe they've had significant traumas and they have separated themselves from those traumas, when certain emotions start to erupt, they're certainly not at a point ready to fully express that, nor do they want to experience all of the emotions. So we just accept that in the process and know that, as shamanic practitioners, we are not medical professionals, we are not counselors. But if individuals are needing that type of assistance, then they should be directed to that type of care. We have to be very cognizant when working with people's emotions, because everyone has a different way of managing. And sometimes, as you said, like they almost expect it's like it's a one and done, or you're going to fix it all. And it's not a fix all. It's a process, just like any modality you go through. It's a process. And some people just resonate with this type of energy work. And those are the people that keep coming back. And that's the most rewarding, I think, from my standpoint, is when you have individuals who are truly vested in their own emotional well being, or physical well being for that matter. They continue to come back, and you listen to them and hear the evolution of their healing, and it is incredible, because You have gone through it yourself. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that's foreign to you. You understand it. You still go through it yourself. So it is something that's truly rewarding in this process.
Yes, I can definitely say the same thing of like when you just hear people's stories and how, not only like how sessions have helped them, but just how they're just figuring things out. And it's just a happy thing. Comes from the heart space of like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Like genuinely, like you're on your way. Or, sometimes I'll have people come in for like a tarot card reading. Then they're like, well, what's this illumination thing? And then we start doing illuminations. And then they're like, well, what's this crystal dreaming thing about? And so it's almost like a little bit of a step program. I don't want to say it like that, but like, you know,
Right, right.
people kind of sometimes just get their toes wet with the tarot cards, and then it's kind of like whoop, 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 up from there. And it's like, yeah, like this is great. You're doing amazing. And then, the crystal dreaming is a whole nother thing in itself, but that's also some
Absolutely.
very intense stuff that people at least I feel from a practitioner standpoint at this point, they have to be kind of ready for it at some degree. Like, most people just can't jump right into that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think like anything, you can work with anyone at whatever level they're at, but you're going to potentially, um, in the end, get the result of where they're at. So if they're a beginner in this energy work, they're going to start erupting and moving forward some basic energy. If they're more advanced in their healing process, then they're going to be a little bit more open. But that's not always true. I've had some pretty incredible breakthroughs from individuals who literally have no experience with energy work and just have done brilliant because they're open, if you will. They're open vessels, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't have expectations, and they didn't come in with fears. They just come in with this not knowing, and not knowing is okay. And they were just willing to be part of the process.
Yes, that's amazing. And I will say, I feel like fear has just been a big thing lately, at least. I'm probably always, but with the people I've been seeing, fear has
Mm.
been a big issue. And even with some of the like crystal dreaming that I've been doing with people. One woman, she was very open like before we started, but then I could tell something was going on during it. And I was like, okay, what's going on? She's like, I'm just afraid this isn't going to work. And I'm like, okay, like we can't be in the headspace of already being afraid that it's not going to work. But luckily that session ended up being great and amazing. But it's just something that comes up a lot, I feel like. Even just the
Absolutely.
anticipation.
Well, I mean, for those individuals who may be watching today, it is so crystal dreaming is an aspect where we put you into essentially a relaxed, if you want to say meditative state, where we just draw forth the energies of all of those ancestral beings and teachers and guides just to surround you. And we move you and connect you into your physical body, into physical sensations. But then we move that into um, more what we would say a spiritual connection. And what I mean by that is as you connect in maybe to a physical feeling in your body, that might bring you back to a time and space, whether it's in this lifetime or a lifetime prior, where a trauma occurred. And as we do, we do this guided process that brings forth a story. And however you view it, whether you believe it or not believe it, that story evolves from that individual. It's not from the practitioner. The practitioner just cues and asks the question, and those the story evolves. And then there is an opening with that story. Usually, it's an emotional trauma, and with that there's an understanding of what potentially might be happening in this lifetime. There's incredible connection. So it really is it's a guided, almost meditative state that you move into, but to be with your essentially with all your guides who are assisting you in understanding some of the trauma that you may be attempting to clear in this lifetime, or just simply trying to understand, if you will. in this
Yes.
lifetime. So just so we have a kind of a baseline, if you will, of understanding of crystal dreaming.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. I feel like you probably would said it a lot more eloquently than I would have said it, but I think that's a big thing too that comes up a lot when I'm talking to people or just when I'm putting out some videos sometimes it's like there are times when our traumas are actually stemming from way before in a past life that depending on who you are and your belief system in this lifetime that you might not even be cognizantly aware of at all. So it is also that recognition of like, oh, people have to also be open-minded enough to experience something like that. But overall, I'd say the crystal dreaming really has that I've seen brought about a lot of good change for people and just I don't know. It's just, because we both do like the illuminations on the, shamanic side. And then we both also do the crystal dreaming, which is different from the shamanism, technically, and it's all under the umbrella of this energy work and healing, but at very different paces, I guess. Oh, hi, puppy.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, right. He decided to join us. Um, no, I think that's what's beautiful. And that's what I love about shamanism. And it doesn't matter whether as a practitioner, this is the skill set you use, or you draw in Reiki, or you draw in some other energy work. The goal is just to create that body of knowledge and understanding and the movement of energy for the person that you need. Maybe that person needs more Reiki. Maybe they need more somatic therapy, whatever it is, the skill set that you bring forward. And that's your connection to your client. Your client has to be understanding that you, as Tegan, I'm connecting with you and I am feeling the shifts and changes, just as you may work with them for a period of time and maybe they're ready to open into another practitioner, maybe another modality, or another individual. And that's okay, because that's just what we're here to do. We're here to hold the space, we're here to open that energy. And if we're in that mindset, then that's really going to be the focus of what we do, where ego does not come into it. Because if ego comes into it, I'm the one. If you have a practitioner that you go to, whether it's a tarot card reader, whether it's an energy worker or a body worker, if they're saying to you, I'm the only one who's going to be able to do this, then I would have your spidey senses, if you will, on high alert, and just simply say that no, one person is not the answer, and I might need something different. And just know that you hold your own individuality and understanding of what you need. So always feel like, as a client going to see any type of energy worker, if it doesn't connect or feel right with you, do not hesitate to just kind of move towards something that really just vibrates with you, where energetically it just seems like the right fit for you, just like it would for a counselor, for a
Hmm.
psychiatrist. In mental health of any kind, you want to go towards the individual that just seems to work with you the best.
And I will say, just from personal experience, so before I went, through all of my training and such, way back when I was a personal trainer. And so they would kind of tell you the same thing with personal training because you're doing a one-on-one individual clients of like, sometimes people just don't click. And it's not because you're a bad trainer. It's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's just a personality thing. But I will say, before I did this training, and this was a lot of people, the ego would kick in. You automatically just be like, well, what's wrong with this person? Why don't they like me? Or I'm doing the exact thing I should be doing and they're not doing. So one thing that I've noticed internally is what you just said. I truly feel that if someone is like, you know what, this isn't working for me, or I feel I need to do something else, and it's like, great. Like you were saying in the beginning, it's listening to your own intuition, listening to your own body, and just knowing what is best for you and not letting anybody else tell you exactly what you should be doing, where you should be going. Because I'll get that with even just reading sometimes. People will be like, well, you need to tell me what to do. I'm like, I can give you guidance based on what's coming forward. I'm like, but it's honestly not like my job to be like, you do this and then you need to do that. It's a little bit of hints I'll give you or what the cards are saying, but then you have to be the one to like make your own decision still.
Yeah, and I think that's something that as practitioners of any kind, the ones that, I mean, practitioners that have a strong moral sense of being of what they're doing, that individuals that are seeking full direction it's concerning because you really want to be able to assist in the process, but you're not saying that you are the person that is able to tell them what to do. I unfortunately, in any area in life, these are individuals that can be taken advantage of. Come back to me, pay this amount of money. You know, and I'm not against anybody offering whatever they ask as a monetary amount for their services. I am more concerned about individuals who indicate that you need to do 10 sessions and that's the only way that you're going to get better, and you have to
Mhm.
or that I've heard the monetary amount goes up after each session. And I really this is something where I think we can take a lot of advantage of individuals, and especially those who are experiencing a lot of deep trauma. And it's unfortunate. I mean, it happens, and it happens in a lot of areas of life, not just in energy work,
Right.
but it's something that I think clients have to be aware of, that we're not here to fix your problems, but we're here to help you move in the process and journey with you for healing process. I mean, if there was someone to fix all our problems, we would have that individual, right? We would
Right.
go to
Then
that
very few
individual, and
people would
life
have
would be pretty
problems.
easy. Yeah, we would have a pretty easy life. But what's more difficult is actually having to really go on that journey and really feel into all of those traumas and issues and difficulties that we've experienced in order to open into a different way of thinking and a way of life.
Yes, for sure. Because that way, when you're the one kind of like doing the work and feeling into it, then it's when it helps like sink into your own energy, to your being, that different way of thinking, that different way of living. So, for anyone out there who's watching, who's really just starting their journey or like in the thick of it, like you're doing great and it's all for the better and you're gonna be okay. I always feel like sometimes that first initial like deep dive you do, it's like, oh my gosh, am I coming back up again? What is going on?
Yeah, that journey it can be very traumatic. It depends on what you've experienced in your lifetime. It can be very dark for a long period of time, and it doesn't necessarily move quickly, right? We all are in an time and space here where we want instantaneous gratification, and that doesn't come quickly. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes a year. But when it comes, it's an amazing feeling when you truly have a breakthrough. And, a breakthrough is different for every individual. It doesn't have to be life altering, earth shaking, but for you, it has a tremendous impact. And it doesn't matter what that is, it has incredible impact for that individual. And I think, anyone who's on a healing journey now, as they're listening, just embrace that journey. Know that that journey has no timeline. It might go quickly, it might go slowly, it might speed up and slow down. But when something truly amazing happens, you will feel it. And I mean, it's life altering. And it's that incredible release of heaviness, of pain, of sorrow, or whatever it is that you were carrying with that. And it's just let go. And it just gives you a completely different way of which you approach life. And you certainly respect. um, all of that feeling and all of that heaviness that you've held for so long.
Yes, and it's truly like you said, life altering. Like it's amazing and it sticks with you as opposed to if we're just kind of trying to skim over the surface of things and everything's comes back around and nothing fully changes. So it's worth it's worth the negative feelings that you're going to feel at times. It's worth
Mhm.
the time, and that's just from my perspective too of having literally gone through the process not too long ago. And um I do want to switch topics here just for a little bit. So there is another thing that you do as well that is very interesting. And to me, this is what started my journey. It wasn't even the actual shaman training that did, obviously, but it was my session with you that I did where you were doing the light language. And that was, for me at least, this thing that just cracked me open. And I just started
Mhm.
questioning everything because I could feel with that session we were doing. I could feel it for days after because it was so unique and so different. And again, it was just one of those things that I really connected with it. And it was like literally life altering. So, for those who literally don't know what I'm talking about when I say light language, like what is your like definition of what you do?
So, light language is a connection to the divine galactic beings of the universe. It brings forth energies, if you will, from various um, levels of the divine, meaning uh, it could it could bring forth galactic councils. It could bring forth the Palladians. It can bring forth different star groups that you connect with. And the understanding is when you connect in, and it's a channeling process. When you channel in these beings, there is a divine, the initial connection is to your star family that you initially connect with. And so, with that being said, just so that still might be very difficult for people to really understand, I'm going to go back a little bit and just say, as I was opening up in my energy work with as shamanism, I connected with a mentor who I saw do light language, and the language was completely different. And I will channel through something if you'd like after, just to give a brief idea of
Mm-hmm.
what that is. And in doing that, when I initially saw her channel, there was such an, just as you said, and honestly, Tegan, what's interesting, I don't even remember that session with you. I really have no recollection of that session.
That's funny.
But 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 it's the same idea as like when I listened to this individual who was my then mentor after the fact, who did my training, if you will, who opened me up into this aspect. um there was just some divine knowing, there was some divine understanding and connection, and I just felt like I had to talk to her. And as I talked to her and as she did light language, there was just this opening in me that just brought forth, and it was like just this channeling opening that just burst forth in me. And I was and early on it was like it was almost like this energy wanted to come through at any time, any place, and I had to really hold that energy to say, not now, not the time, not the place.
Yeah.
But it was extremely interesting. So it can connect with any type of galactic being, and we call forth those energies that are of highest energies, of highest good, of highest dimensional space, that will provide us with, either a greater understanding of the universe, if you will, or a better understanding of just simply the energy of the person that you're sitting with as a client, and trying to bring forth some greater energy and thought of what is that individual experiencing and what do they need to open into, and how can we facilitate that process. And really, they act to me, and as I bring forward, they really act as a facilitator to open individuals. It's not a psychic process, but people go, well, that's exactly right, and that's yes, and I agree with that, but it's more of a facilitation to open their understanding and to assist them in their healing, or to just as simply to assist them in their growth here on Earth in this dimension, in whatever way that helps them, if you will.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So I just have one question too before you channel a little bit here.
Yeah.
So when did you start, like, I guess for it's more like when was the moment? Now you said you were trying to hold those energies and stuff, but like when did you actually literally start like speaking? Like was it all of a sudden
Mm.
it just started happening, or was it when you were trying to kind of bring those energies in and let it
Yeah.
flow?
So it's interesting. When my mentor started working with me, there was a process. She worked with me throughout time.
Okay.
And then there was this moment where she said, okay, like, here we go. And it was, I can only recall it as, it felt like this buildup. She was building this energy. And as she built this energy, and as we cleared my own energy and opened my chakras, opened my crown, feeling very open, I could feel something moving through me, but I knew I was resisting. I could feel the resistance. I could feel like I couldn't speak, and it was like my mental mind said, "No, you can't do that. No, that's not what you're supposed to be doing." And I, I had to move beyond that. And then I would speak a word. And then it was kind of like, okay, whatever. That was just me just making something up. And then all of a sudden the words started coming together. And then, as my mentor, she was saying, like how she speaks and the symbols she uses are different of how I speak and the symbols I use. And it could simply be from the star beings that come through for you. And there's a very unique verbiage and language and how I say things that are very different if you listen to another um, light worker speak, if you will, light language. And for me, what that's created is this, as something comes through me and moves through me, how I've learned to work with that is, as that information comes through me, I've learned to interpret that through my filters. And I say that because they are my filters. I learned to interpret that and give that back to the client. So, how I might interpret might be different than how you may experience that from others. Now, sometimes it is just the feeling that's elicited from the words that I'm saying, and there does not need to be an interpretation. Sometimes it's just literally the feeling. And so there's a variety of ways one can experience light language just simply through listening. It can be through observation if there's a lot of hand signals and signs, different people, almost like mudras, if you will, if you're in yoga. Um, there can be different types of movements of the hands that can be very different from individual to individual. If you go and see those who do a lot of light language, a lot of them do um, artistic work, and they'll bring forth an artistic writing of what they're seeing, if you will, of the light language itself. And it is, that in itself is absolutely activating to me when I visually seen people who are truly skilled in really artistically putting down on paper, if you will, what they're saying, the symbols that are coming through, that are being brought through in their channeling process. I have a person I know out of Portugal who does artwork, and she does it, and now I'm almost forgetting the word. oh my goodness. Now I say this, but she interprets it in her art, and she puts it, embeds it within her art. And I'm like, I look at it and it's just like, boom, like I
Like
am
hits you.
simply activated because, yes, because there's some symbol in there. And it's not even necessarily that you can see it clearly. It's just there's something with her that she channels through. And for whatever, for me, it activates something. And it's just incredible. And this is what's incredible about working with people with all different skill sets, because you can be more visual or more sensual or auditory, but whatever it is, you can find that person that really is going to activate whatever it is needed for you.
And I
Love
feel like
it.
even yeah, right. Even just being on social media sometimes. So I follow a lot of people who like work, whatever, they do all different types of things, and certain pieces of art or certain people who make music. Just once in a while, there's one that I see that just like you said, like boom, like you almost like feel it, like it jumps
Right.
out. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is different. At least for me, this is what really is clicking. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so with light language, if you will, I'm just lighting a bit of sage here.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to open a little bit, and I'll just see what comes through. Before we actually started this session today, that energy was moving through me, and it's not uncommon. It's part of my clearing process. Um, and what's interesting, as I bring forth the light language, even for myself, I'm often interpreting whatever it's saying out loud to myself, which I think is interesting because, no, for all individuals, like, sometimes you just need the concrete, you need to hear it. For other
Mhm.
individuals, they tap into their deepest emotions, and they just know exactly what's being said. And for that, that's incredible. That
Yeah,
it comes that easily. So I'm just going to take a moment here.
sure.
So as we just hold sacred space, and Tegan and I have opened our own sacred space here and together, and we hold this oh yeah, we hold this very sacred space together, regardless that we are of a distance to one another. And we call forth all of those individuals that divinely love us. And I want to encourage anyone that's watching this today is to call forward all of our ancestors, those who divinely love us, those who have passed, those who are our teachers, our ancestral teachers, whether you know them or not, those who are, we consider our master teachers, our angels, our archangels. We ask that those galactic beings and everyone that comes forward is those of our highest good. And we want to hold that container for everyone here today. And so as we hold that container, we hold for the divine good. We anchor that into our heart chakra, into our heart, into our chest. And I just ask that everyone here today, we're going to, what we say, open up our crown chakra, so that space above our head. Just feel this opening like a swirl of energy. And as that swirl of energy is small, it begins to open and gradually get larger and larger. And we call forth the universal energy, that of the energy of above, that of the energy of the Father. I also call forth here the energy of Gaia, the energy of Earth. And I call her through the deepest aspect of the crust of the earth, and I bring her and move her forward into me, in through my feet, in through my legs, and up into my heart. And what I do as I'm explaining this to you, I'm connecting those energies of the universe, of the energy of Father Sky and the energy of Mother Earth, and I'm connecting them into my heart space. So here I'm going to tell you here, I'm calling forth the energy of Gaia. I'm calling forth the energy of the earth. It is the mother. She is the energy that holds us, She talks about of the energy that allows us to enjoy this planet, to clear the planet, to create the shifts. Now, interesting, the word she brings forward here is magnitude. She talks about the magnitude of shifts, and I believe what I feel as she's bringing forth, she said there is a lot of there's a lot of powerful energy. And this is the emotion she brings forward for me today. She said there is a lot of earth events. She said that are in the process of happening. And she said they're not for the purpose of trauma. They're not for the purpose of mass clearing. It is of the magnetic energy of the earth to realign itself. And these events will happen over time. And unfortunately, they will cause loss of life. She said just from the sheer magnitude, if you will, of that happening. She wants to she wants you to know that you are held. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live. It is an embrace. It is that of the mother, and just simply an understanding of that of the mother. And just as you imagine it here on earth, the mother's love, the mother's care, the mother's hug, the mother's embrace, she is always here to hold that, to hold the trauma. She says, I'm not here to create the trauma. I'm not here to create a clearing. But there is an alignment. There is an alignment that has to happen in order for us to go forward on this planet. There is a she says there is like she's almost telling me of some like almost like a scientific aspect of the earth, and almost like in it's sometimes hard to interpret in the sense here. What she's saying is that the physics, if you will, of the land mass, of how this land is going to sustain us over time, over the years, as things shift and grow, both from us from a scientific standpoint, as populations grow, as things shift, as environments shift, as we cut down trees. Like, I say all of this, but it's kind of like I get some sort of wording or vision, and this is what she's trying to interpret, and this is why I say it comes through my filter. And so she is saying this in the aspect of, in order for the earth to survive, there has to be some seismic, some substantial, almost catastrophic activities that happen in different aspects of the earth anywhere over the world that will help with overall alignment. She said it is almost like, she said, if you want to compare it to something as simple, and I know I'm saying a lot without saying the language, but it's just simply coming through me. And this is how I function, and this is how I work in this process, that sometimes light language is nonstop, and then sometimes it's just me communicating. But she simply says, just as the fires in the forest happen to help clear, it's almost like a 20-year clearing. It just has to happen. This is what's happening across the planet at any given time. She said we have to be good like good conservationists, if you will, of our space. She said it's not a never ending resource. Resources are finite. If we continue to barrel through this lifetime without any consideration to the global forestation, the lands, the soil, the air, the resources, the minerals, she said, these are not finite. They can disappear. She said we have to be very aware that what we do impacts, and that what we do can also allow for long time sustaining of the environment in a very stable way. And she said this is what many of our uh, individuals who are scientists are working to succeed. But she said, what is the problem in this lifetime? She said, I guess not to bring forth political aspects, but she said political um, sways, whether it's this country or other countries, impact how we look at the environment. And she said this is has to be globally important, because this is how we sustain the place that we're at. So from that, I'm going to actually separate. I'm actually just thanking Mother Gaia and thank you for this beautiful message. I know that this was connecting through me today for the simple reason I was in deep. You see, it comes forward for me in emotion in the light language, but it comes forward for me in a lot of the devastation that's happening globally. And it is the feeling of it's not only the land, it's not the land, it's the people, it's the global impact of loss of life, it is the impact of what's happening, and the sheer magnitude of what can happen in Mother Nature, and that we can't take for granted, just like we can't take for granted our loved ones and our family. We can't take for granted the earth, our minerals, our resources. They are not finite. They cannot last forever. And I think that's here the lasting message. So with that, Tegan, I am going to I have just disconnected here, but that
Yeah.
is light language. And for me, that's how I process it. For someone else, it might be a little different. And in that particular moment, that was it. I'm feeling the emotion very strongly with that.
Well, thank you,
So
first of all, for
yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, that was actually very surprising, but I appreciate it. Gaia comes through. I am very much from a shamanic practitioner, as much as I like to connect to the stars, I am earth. I am feet on the ground. I am connected to Mother Gaia. Number one, I can connect into Father Sky, but clearly, but I have a deep connection to Gaia, and there is a very deep understanding with her and how I work with that energy as a shaman.
that's amazing and amazing to see. And so thank you for bringing that forward. I think that was such an important message as well. And it's just like, even growing up, I remember, you'd talk about that, right? Got to take care of the earth, got to do this. But then when it comes to like the bigger scale things, you can't rule out the individual's impact. But when we look at political things or big companies and things like that, it's like we talk about these things, but then they don't happen, or they're trying to happen just on an individual level, and it's just not enough. So, the big question that's going to be hanging out there is like, how do we do that and do it well and do it ethically? And, that I feel like it's just such a everyone needs to like help in that way and on all like levels, and that's going to be hard to do, and unfortunately.
Well, I think that, I mean, this is the process. And, as the Peruvians, because our training is in the Peruvian tradition, and where the Peruvians initially receive their information was really through the archangels. And as they were downloaded with the information and the energy work, for many for centuries, for decades, there was this idea that this belief system had to stay within the Peruvian community. But as we became more global, as we became more international, that the world wasn't the Inca Empire anymore, the shaman in the Peruvian tradition, the Quechuan, if you will, basically began to initiate individuals that were not within the Inca community, because they understood that the only way to shift and make change, whether it's globally from the earth standpoint or just from different types of energies, that they would have to expand their community. And so their downloads then were passed down to those individuals that they trained, and then those trainees who then now train people from all over the world. And so whether you receive your training, if you're here in North America or you're, international and somewhere else, and you received your training from, an individual in whatever tradition it was, they're passing down those very divine traditions over many years that were passed to you. And you spoke about, we are given specific rights, if you will, during our training. And those rights are really opening up specific gifts and understanding of all of those who have come before us. And so that is what we hold, and that's what we hold when we carry that forward to if we are training other individuals. But it's also the belief system and how we function in life to bring forward that information to others.
Yes, and I feel like you kind of brought everything back full circle just now. So I want to kind of end it there because that was beautifully said. But if someone is interested in, light language or even the shamanism, can they get a hold of you in any way?
Yes, so right now I am on social media, but I am a lot through word of mouth.
Okay.
So a lot of people find me in a lot of different ways. But I think the easiest way at this point would be just to simply find me by email. And I can certainly forward that to you after if that helps you to put it in
Sure.
your, uh,
Mhm.
yeah, but it is ML and then it's just ACNP 2000 at yahoo.com. I know that won't make a lot of sense to people,
Yeah.
but we can put that in comments. But if you just simply want to reach out and just talk to me and see if that's something you want to pursue, I'm more than happy at this point. I'm at a point in my, I would say, shamanic career where I'm opening up into more of my own gifts, expanding and clearing still some of my own aspects of myself, and just really the priority comes to when those individuals are in need and come to me. I work with those individuals, and that's why right now I just work through word of mouth. I'm not aggressively seeking
Right.
clients, but I love working with people. It actually heals me as much as it heals and works with other people, so
I
I'm thrilled to do
agree.
so. Yeah.
Amazing. Or, another option for anyone who's listening, you can always just message me or email me and I can send the info forward. So
Yeah.
either way here, I'll put both emails up and then yeah, we can start all keep or not start, just keep all healing collectively and help Mother Earth as well, as we heard from our message there. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Monique. That was so amazing. And we'll have to have you on again because I feel like there's just so much that we could possibly talk about. But yes, this was amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tegan. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited for your journey as you continue on, and I just love watching you expand and grow. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I owe a lot to the training. So thank you.
Absolutely.